Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To my lecturer, Professor Madya Dr. Haji Muhammad Shanawi bin Muhammad Pirus. My name is Alia Afrina binti Muhammad Farid, and today I will be presenting a cybersecurity case analysis as a part of my industrial relations assignment. The case I have chosen is Tosiwe versus Tedrick John Mohar and Anor 2017. With that, I will begin my presentation. This case revolves around the allegation that the plaintiff personally email account was hacked and that the retrieved emails were used to justify his dismissal. Based on these events, he filed a claim for invasion of privacy and breach of confidence. At the same time, the case raises important industrial relations questions, particularly about employee misconduct, employer authority, and workplace confidentiality. Moving forward to the facts of the case, the plaintiff, Tosiwe, was the CEO of Penang Adventist Hospital. The defendants in this case were the former CEO and the Vice President of Medical Affairs. The plaintiff claimed that while he was overseas, his Hotmail email account was hacked without his permission. Around 1,000 emails were allegedly accessed and printed. These printed emails were later shown during a board meeting on 21st of July 2011 and were used as the basis for terminating the plaintiff's employment. However, the plaintiff admitted that many of the emails were actually work-related and involved discussions about hospital matters. Some were even sent to third parties outside the hospital. Following this, the plaintiff sued the defendants for 2 million ringgit and sought injunctions to stop the further use of his emails. So this case raises three major industrial relations issues. So the first one is employee privacy versus employer's right to investigate. So the case question the balance between the employee privacy and the employer's right to investigate misconduct. Even though the emails were from a personal account, they were used to evaluate his behavior as an employee, highlighting the conflict between privacy, expectations, and organizational responsibility. And then the second one is nature of work-related emails. It challenges whether emails involving hospital operations can be considered as private. Since the emails discuss internal matters and were shared with multiple people, the case shows how privacy protection becomes limited when workplace information is involved. And then for the last one, use of emails in disciplinary actions. The case examines whether using emails for disciplinary action breaches confidentiality. For fairness, it raises the issue of whether organizations may rely on internal or shared communication as evidence when addressing misconduct. And then we proceed to the judgment of the case. The High Court ultimately dismissed the plaintiff's entire claim after examining the evidence, the nature of the emails, and also the legal principles involved. So firstly, the court held that the plaintiff failed to prove that his email account was hacked. Since the allegation of hacking was the foundation of his claim, the absence of any technical evidence or reliable testimony made the claim unsustainable. So, Malaysian courts follow the principle that the party making of the allegation must prove it, and in this case, the plaintiff could not meet that requirement. The second one, the court determined that the emails were not private in nature. Although the emails came from a personal Hotmail account, the content itself was related to the management and operations of the hospital. So the plaintiff had also shared these emails with various individuals, including parties outside the organization. Because of this, the court found that the plaintiff no longer had a reasonable expectation of privacy over the emails. And the third one, the court rules that there was no breach of confidence. A breach of confidence required the required that the information be confidential, that it was shared in circumstances implying secrecy, and that misuse of that information occurred. In this case, the email were neither confidential nor exclusively controlled by the plaintiff, as he had circulated them voluntarily. The next one, the court held that the disclosure of these emails was justified in the public interest. The content revealed matters that could affect the hospital's governance and raise concerns about possible misconduct by the plaintiff. When the information relates to potential wrongdoing, public interest allows for disclosure, especially within an organization responsible for public service. And finally, the last one, the court applied that this equitable principle of clean hands, indicating that a person seeking the court's protection must act honestly and responsibly. Since the email suggested questionable conduct by the plaintiff, the court found it inappropriate for him to rely on privacy law to shield his own behavior. And for these reasons, the court dismissed the plaintiff action and awarded costs to the defendants. And then for the analysis and the critics, the court's reasoning demonstrates several strengths that align with legal principles and the available evidence. And then, the first one is evidence-based, no hacking proven. The court's decision was grounded on the fact that the plaintiff could not produce any proof of hacking. Since hacking is a serious allegation, the burden of proof lies on the plaintiff. The court's insistence on the clear evidence reflects a fair and consistent application of the law. And the second one is emails were clearly work-related. The court correctly acknowledged the nature of the emails. The plaintiff admitted that many of the emails were work-related and had been shared with multiple individuals. Because of this, the plaintiff no longer had a reasonable expectation of the privacy. The court's analysis shows an accurate understanding of how workplace communication can lose its private character once it is shared widely. And then public interest outweighs secrecy. The court placed importance on public interest. The emails revealed possible misconduct involving the plaintiff, including actions that could undermine the hospital's administrations. In such situation, public interest naturally outweighs any claim of confidentiality. This reflects a balanced approach between protecting privacy and ensuring accountability within an organization. And lastly, the court applied the equitable principle of clean hand, recognizing that a person cannot seek protection of the court if their own conduct is questionable. This reinforces the idea that privacy rights cannot be used as a shield to hide wrongdoing. Although the judgment is reasonable, there are still some weaknesses. So firstly, the case shows that privacy law in Malaysia is still unclear. The court took a narrow view and did not fully recognize invasion of privacy as a strong legal claim. Because of this, employees may not have enough protection when it comes to digital communication, especially when using personal emails account. And then, even though the emails were work-related, they came from the plaintiff's personal Hotmail account, and the court did not properly discuss the difference between using a personal email and an official work email. This is important because people generally expect more privacy when it comes to their own personal accounts. The third one is the court quickly rejected the constitutional argument about the right to privacy under Article 5.1. The plaintiff relied on this right, but the court did not explain the issue in details. A deeper explanation would have helped future cases understand how constitutional privacy applies. And lastly, the judgment did not fully address industrial relations concerns. The court did not explore whether the termination process was fair or not, whether the proper procedures were followed or not, or whether the employer acted proportionately or not. These are important factors when deciding if an employer was treated fairly or not. overall, I think even though the judgment follows the law, it also shows gaps in Malaysia's protection of digital privacy and fairness in workplace disciplinary actions. And then the last one for the references, I have included five, which is all directly related because they establish how Malaysian court treat privacy, when privacy claims are allowed, when they are rejected, and how constitutional rights interact with private disputes. Together, they show the legal background, whether privacy and confidentiality applied in Tosiwe versus Tedrick John Mohar case. So that's it. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.